we are going to be talking about pitching business ideas. So who is with me? His name is Maurizio La Cava. He's coming from my favorite country on the planet. I don't know if I should be saying that, but that's Italy. He wrote this book, by the way, here, Lean Presentation Design, and one more book that's here, that's called Startup Pitch Presentation, which is highly, highly recommended. And he also runs a presentation design firm called MLC Presentation Design Consulting. Maurizio, welcome to the conference.
Thank you, Boris. So nice to be here with you guys today, and so beautiful, proud of you of having built this amazing event.
The energy of an Italian person, always, you can always find it. So much, like I'm so much waiting for that one. Cannot wait for that session, and the energy and the body language and the movement and everything else. Maurizio, we're talking about something that's very dear to your heart, and that's business, pitching business ideas, pitching startup ideas, but more or less on the business ideas now, because a lot of our audience is from the business world. You have done tremendous research on the topic. You have wrote a book on it, right? So I just don't have anything else to say but to just take the floor, take it away. Let's go.
Let's start. So Rick before me has been very honest about presentations. And guys, I won't lie to you. Most of the presentations that we see around here, I can tell you they just do not work. Now, every time we talk about presentations, what happens is that we often think about things like this. Now, what do you think? What do you guys think might be the reaction of a poor audience in front of that? Now, there is a keyword that Rick before me mentioned, and I believe during these 2 days you will be hearing a lot, which is something that we used to call death by PowerPoint. Now, death by PowerPoint means that your presentation didn't work the way you expected. The problem here is that with presentations, most of us, we do business. And that's why we spend so much time on them. Why do we spend so much time on them? Because, guys, there is no way we cannot fail at delivering our presentations. We don't do presentations for fun. Most of the time we do presentations for business, and this is the topic of today. And when we deliver a presentation for business, this means that we are trying to make our message to go through, to reach our audience, and to make them do something they wouldn't have done. Now, I know there are informative presentations, but there are also persuasive presentations. Now, when we talk about persuasive presentations, and therefore we are pitching our ideas, specifically for a business matter, this means we cannot fail, because the cost of failure might be too high. So I just want you to think for a second. What would it be the cost of failure of your next presentation? Now, imagine your next presentation you're going to deliver. It could be a pitch for getting your startup funded. It could be a pitch for to internal stakeholder, or a business meeting, or you coming on a stage like we are today. So what's the cost of failing your next presentation, right? Maybe it's not affordable. And that's why we put so much effort into that. Now, the big question is, why do presentations fail? I mean, presentations are not just slides. So yes, sometimes ugly slides, they don't definitely help, but presentations are a dialogue between people. It's a relationship between people, you and your audience. Now, I believe that a good presentation is made at least by 3 fundamental pillars. The first one is you standing in front of people and not going to panic. Black screen, I don't know what to say, that is total panic. And Rick talked about hand gesture, the way you manage your presence on stage. Now, there are a lot of techniques about this. In my opinion, the biggest feedback I can give to you is experience. So yes, study as much as you can, but then practice. Stay in front of people, stay in front of camera, and just try. Try and be ready to be wrong. This is the best I can tell you. Second one is vision content. Our slides, your slides, guys. So when you produce your slides, you want your contents to you want to bring your life, your ideas through your content. You want your audience to visualize your contents, right? You want your slides to interact with you while you're giving your speech. And you should be bouncing back the attention from you and your slides in a very synergic way. Now, there are many ways of designing slides, but this is not the design track. So you will be connected to the other track for design. I'm just mentioning that this is an important part, and my colleagues out there are doing a great job. So keep an eye on that as well. What do we talk about today? Well, probably one of the most important things when we talk about presentation, and that's why I included as one of the fundamental pillars. What do we say when we talk about presentations? When you build your presentation, what do you say? What should you be saying? Now, we said the presentations are more than just slides. We said the presentations are made of people. Yes. And everybody would tell you, when you start the presentation, you should be focusing on your audience. But as Rick said, this is like, all right, thank you very much. I mean, how am I supposed to go and stalk like all the people in my audience? That's not easy. So that's why I'm going to propose you a very simple step-by-step methodology to analyze your audience and get only the information you really need to craft the perfect storyline for your presentation and to answer this big question. What do I put into my presentation? Yes, because very often we start preparing presentations and we start putting information into that. And when we are owner of the project, we tend to include everything into our presentation, and we don't manage to leave something out. So my opinion is, we say we start from the audience, all right, but how do we start from the audience? Well, first and most important, we are talking about the pitch. Pitch is a persuasive presentation. So this means that you have an objective in mind for them. This means you want them to do something they wouldn't have done differently. So in my opinion, what you should be doing is, first of all, start from the end. What do you want them to do they wouldn't have done without your presentation? Now, if they're not doing that autonomously, this means that they need to develop some kind of awareness. And thanks to your presentation, they are going to do that. So you want them to do something? Very good. What do you want them to do? Fine. Now, what do they need to think after your presentation that they're not thinking today so that they can do what you expect them to do? Now, of course, they won't be doing that autonomously. Why? Because people resist to change. You're trying to persuade them, but people resist to change. And this is natural. Now, for us, this is all we need to know about our audience. I'm going to pitch investors because I want my startup to be funded. Now, very, very good. They might be thinking, right, I don't believe in your team. I don't believe in your market size. I don't believe in your business model. I don't believe you have a good traction. Now, this means that those are resistances I need to anticipate and overcome if I want them to be persuaded at the end of my presentation. How do I do that? Well, the first thing I do is I analyze my audience. This doesn't mean I need to know how many sons they have or where they go to school. I don't care about it. What I need to know is, based on my objective, why would they resist? Now, what I'm going to do is I list my resistances. I list their resistances to my objective, the objective that I have in mind for them. As Rick said before, I'll be linking to him again, the presentation is not for you, it's for your audience. So good presenters are those who are able to turn the spotlight to their audiences. Now, you're talking to them. You want them to do something they wouldn't have done. Why should they resist? What we're doing here is kind of reverse engineering the storyline of your presentation. That's why we say we start from the audience. We need to understand people.
The fact of the matter is 100% of customers are people. And 100% of clients are people. And 100% of employees are people. I don't care how good your product is. I don't care how good your marketing is. I don't care how good your design is. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business.
Boom, that's bold enough. But there's somebody else I want to quote here today. You know who? Mom. I don't know if this is a matter of Italian moms, but I can tell you that my mom was always telling me something that was true. Mauri, do not talk to strangers. Why? I mean, how are you expected to go and talk to an audience you don't understand, and then talking about the resistance here, and you expect them to be persuaded? Now, the moment in which you start talking to them, you need to keep in mind one thing. the thing that they have in mind. And the only thing they have in mind is, why should I spend the next 45 minutes to invest my time listening to you instead of doing something else? Now, what is the unique only reason that you can use for them to pay attention to you?
We're going to find a way to talk about the client. We're going to find a way to talk about the prospect if it's a new business meeting. I understand that at some point you have to give them some bona fides, if you will, that you belong in the room. But I would hope that that's done in advance, that that's out of the way, and you can focus on something about them. People love hearing about themselves. They don't really like hearing about the other guy.
People love hearing about themselves. They don't really care hearing about the other guys. So now my question is, why most of the sales presentations start just, I, me, how big my organization is, how international it is, how much experience I have? Who cares? We do not start presentations from ourselves, we start presentations from our audiences. Now, there's plenty of books that say that. I just browsed slideshare.com. I have nothing about consultants or companies specifically, but most of the presentation that we see around there, they start like that. They start talking about us, they keep talking about us, they keep talking about us, and at the end, eventually they talk about you. Now, you start talking, and the moment you start talking, you already want something from your audience. What do you want? You want their time, you want their attention, which are two scarce resources, the most scarce resource we have in life. Do you know what is the best way to get something from somebody? The best way to get it, guys, is to be the first one to give something back. That's why we should start our presentation always giving something back, because the moment we start, we are already in debt to them. We are already in debt to them. Before we even say, good morning, I'm here to say whatever, we are already in debt. We already owe them something. And the way we can earn their attention is we give them a reason to care. We tell them we're here for them. Before Rick was saying people don't care about the resolution, what they care about is very much the way you phrase the problem, right? And this is what I would suggest you. So let's talk about them, about people, the way they would talk about them, using their own language. That's why I always recommend we should start our presentation not talking about ourselves, but always sharing something. Now, we talked in a very critical way about stories. I know, and I would be very honest and very honest with you guys about stories. I mean, stories work. They've been working since a long time. This is a way humans get connected, humans communicate to each other. 100%. This is true. But is it because of the story itself? Is it because I'm going to tell you the story of what happened to me just before the event? Is it because I'm going to tell you the story of my dog, or telling you a story that will make you laugh that make the difference? It's not. Now, when we talk about storytelling, there's plenty of models around there. But today, we're talking about pitching. We're talking about persuading stakeholders. We're talking about persuading your audience to do something they wouldn't have done, to trigger a change. Now, to do that in business, I think there is one model that I like more than the others. And this model comes from a famous book that is called The Presentation. Now, this model is called the SCORE model. Why do I like it? Because it's easy. It's easy, and it summarizes everything we need to know about storytelling. You know, it's not about the story itself. It's about the way the stories are built, that your communication can become much more effective. And that is what I believe. Now, SCORE model stands for situation. You introduce the context, right? So there is a green orc in a smelly swamp. He likes to be on his own, but one day he finds his life interrupted when countless fairy tales creatures invade his swamp. Now, I moved from the situation, there is a green orc, to a complication. I introduce a protagonist, main character, and now this protagonist is experiencing a complication, a frustration. He's so much frustrated that he's ready to do something he would have never considered doing. What is it? is ready to change, to leave his own swamp, to go to the Duloc city. Yes, I'm talking about Shrek. If you haven't watched the movie, this is part of the references I'm going to share with you today. And he's going to do something he would have never done because he needs to solve this pain. He needs to release from this frustration. And this is what we're trying to do. Before Rick said, it's not about telling your story, it's about making them the protagonists of the story. It's about telling the story of them. Right, and I agree with that. So, if you think for a moment, complication in storytelling is the moment in which tension rises, right? Think about the Netflix series you're watching right now, TV show, or, for example, Pixar movies. They are amazing for that. The moment in which you are hooked to the screen is the moment in which complication rises. This is the moment in which you go, oh my God, is he going to make it? Is the protagonist going to succeed? Is he going to survive and thrive? This is the moment in which you are hooked, right? And then when the resolution comes, because the protagonist survives, then we feel released from the pain and we are happy. Now, this pleasure is what brings us forward, and we have the focus, and we are ready to focus on the next complication. Now, this is what we call storytelling loops. We raise attention, we catch attention, we release attention, we give pleasure to people, they are ready to follow us. And then at the end of this, there is the evidence. Yes, there is the evidence because we're talking about business. We're not just talking about movies, right? And when we talk about business, there is a moment in which you have to give credentials. In marketing, we call it reason to believe. Now, why should I believe you? What is the evidence? Here, it's about you. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be talking about yourself. I'm just saying you should be talking about yourself at the end, at the very end. So let's be very concrete. Complication raises the tension and therefore catches attention. Then you have the resolution. Imagine when the resolution doesn't come in the same episode, then you stay up at night in front of Netflix because some complication hasn't been released. And so you still feel the pain. And therefore you are hooked until that complication hasn't been released. Complication, however, it's not about you. It's a problem about your audience. And that is why 100% we start from complication, because complication is something your audience cares about. Not your resolution, the complication. So we do start with the problem. We do start with the problem because the solution is beautiful. But it's the problem that makes you stare your eyes. Now, the solution might be cute, might be beautiful, but what really moves people, it's not the solution. It's not the solution. It is the problem. It is the problem that moves people. It is the problem that moves people to act. And this is what you guys are trying to do here today. You're trying to persuade them to act, to do something they wouldn't have done. How do you do that? With your solution? With your credentials? Not at all. You do that if you're able to phrase the problem of your people better than they can do it. The solution very often is not even self-standing. The solution is just a relief to the problem. But if you haven't prepared them for the solution, what happens is they won't even get it. They won't even get it. How many times we have solutions under our eyes? This is, for example, the word of pay-per-click ads on our social networks. We have many ads. How many of them we don't even notice? Many of them. And you don't know because you don't notice them. But the point is that if we don't experience the frustration, if we didn't experience the problem, if somebody didn't raise our attention for us, if we don't experience the tension, there is no way we will be paying attention to the solution. There is no way. That's why start your presentation with a solution, it will be a failure. Start the presentation talking about yourself, nobody will care about it. So start the presentation giving them a reason to care. And when you introduce the resolution, still, it's not a time for you to show it off. It's a time to give them a release for the pain. How many gigabytes did the first iPod ever launched have? What was the screen resolution of that iPod? Nobody knows, right? But I bet you guys remember 1,000 songs in your pocket. Airbnb. I know you probably have been traveling with them, renting apartments all over the world. I often do. Now, have you ever seen the pitch that they delivered the first time that they actually managed to raise funds? They went something like that while traveling. Do you pay attention to how much you spend? Did you try to book with locals, right? To be in touch with local culture, but you ended up in a beautiful 5-star resort hotel and you feel far away from local culture. You tried to book with locals, but what happened is that you didn't manage to, because eventually you feared the ones on the other side. The apartment wouldn't even exist. Airbnb stands for making you travel on a budget in touch with local culture. Boom. Guys, how long did it take me? 30 seconds? 40 seconds? Do you know that there are startups that go on and on, pitch at competitions, they go longer than 5 minutes, and then at the end, they get the question, I didn't understand what you do. Now, once again, problem, the solution that drops them up. Now, this is the key. Remember, it's the problem that you need to decline to what your audience care about, and then you introduce the solution. But don't forget why you're making your presentation. And the reason why you're making your presentation is because you're trying to persuade them, to convince them to do something they wouldn't have done, to get them to agree with you. Otherwise, if they already agreed with you, please say the word from another useless presentation. We would all be very happy. Look at the Amazon page. I bet most of you have bought a book on Amazon, right? Now, look at this page. Is there something weird? I did remove something. That probably is the most important piece, the most important bit of this page. Now, you can look, there is a beautiful cover. There are all the information about prices, there are reviews, other suggestions, cross-selling, whatever. But at the end of the day, what they want us to do is click on the button. Now, every presentation should have at least 3 components. And these 3 components should be what, so what, now what? What, right? What are we talking about? So what, why should I care? Now what? If you want them to do something, this means at the end of at the end of your presentation, you need to call them to act, right? And that is why we, in Lean Presentation Design, complement the SCORE model with a final call to action, because we're talking about persuasive presentations, right? Persuasive presentation. You want to move them to do something they wouldn't have done differently. Now, to do all of this, we start from the audience, the way to study them compared to our objective. What do they think today? What do I want them to think tomorrow, so that they will do something they are not ready to do today, but they will be ready to do tomorrow after they reach a new awareness level, thanks to your presentation. Now, everything that allows you to overcome resistance is crucial to your storyline. If it is not relevant to overcome resistance, probably you can get rid of it. In Lean Presentation Design, we marry the concept that less is more. If it is because you are just emotionally attached to that information, but it doesn't help your audience to overcome resistance, then get rid of it. And please save your audience from it. Now you know what to say. What do you say first? What do you say afterwards? Well, you get the SCORE model, and you know where to start and where to land at the end of your presentation. So now you get what to say, and you know what to say first and what to say afterwards. This means we have already built your storyline. How can we spice it up now? We can use science of persuasion. Now, we started with the reciprocity principle. Reciprocity principle is, if I want something from you, the best way to get it is I'm the first one to give something back. And that is why I'm aware, I'm already asking you a lot, because I'm asking you your time and your attention. Your scarcest resources on earth. Now, I want them to you, then I need to give you something straight from the beginning. I need to start talking about you. Authority, we need to be credible. You know, there are some contexts in which we just talk. We just been told what to do, and we don't discuss. We just do what we've been told to do, right? If your doctor tells you something, you just do it, right? You don't argue with that. Now, this means that they are credible. He is credible for us, to our eyes. Now, we need to be credible to our audience eyes. How do we do that? With the evidence part. And that is what we call the reason to believe, consistency. There is this famous experiment in which a group of people has been split in 2. Now, both of them have been challenged to stop smoking, except that one of them has been forced to post every day on Facebook about their achievement. The other one was asked to keep it secret, to keep the challenge secret. And this is what they did. Now, which one of these 2 groups at the end do you believe was closer to stop smoking? Well, of course, the group who was posting on Facebook. Why is that? Because of consistency. We like people to believe that once we are committing to something, we want to deliver. And we don't like people to believe that we are not committed, or that we commit to something that we change idea every time. So what do we do with this principle? For us, this principle is crucial. It's so important, guys, because I told you what I would do before starting persuading an audience is listing the resistances, right? In an engineering way. Now, which resistance shall I tackle first? Easy. Yes, the easiest ones. Why? Because we try to earn consensus along our path, along your persuasion path. We need to build consensus. How do we do that? We start earning yes on easy to tackle resistances. If you start from the hardest resistances for your audience and they will go, no, I won't buy this, then from then on, you have lost their consensus, and good luck earning it back. That's why we tackle resistances, yes, but we prioritize them. Likability. Now the question for you is this one. Can you guys be more empathetic when you give a presentation? The first time I asked myself this, well, I ended up reading a book that I loved. If you haven't read this book, then just give it a watch, give it a look, because it's an amazing book. It talks about how to smile to people, how to listen to people. It's very, very nice. So I won't answer. I just tell you that you can improve on that point. Social proof. We know that we don't have time to take all the decision, to analyze all the information out there. So what do? We rely on others, on what the others tell us, right? And how do we do that? We just look at what the others say about something, about the decision we're about to take. Now, this is clearly TripAdvisor. Sorry, it is in Italian, just realizing it. But the idea is that you might not know a restaurant, but if it has a lot of stars, you might want to go there. Sometimes we even know that this is not relevant. Sometimes they're fake, but they still influence purchase decision. So how do we do that for building our credibility? Can we get testimonials to talk about us? Can we get reviews from our clients? What can we get others to say about us that is relevant to our audience? And if those reviews come from an audience that is close to our audience, is even better. Scarcity, which is often combined with another principle that I'm about to show you. I'm going to show you an e-commerce from an Italian fashion brand that is called Off-White. Now, the first time I browsed this e-commerce, I noticed that this e-commerce is almost sold out on every product, except some product, most of them you cannot buy. So the first question I asked myself was, why would you put online? Why would you publish online a store that is literally empty? It's just full of pictures, but you cannot buy anything from them, right? The reason is because what they're doing is they are creating scarcity. The way they market their product is through launches. So how does this work? They do limited edition in partnership with some amazing like Nike or a very powerful fashion brand. And then what they say is there is a limited edition. You only get 50 pairs of these shoes and you can get them only the day of the launch. Now, this is the moment in which people just queue. They crave to get these shoes. Now, I'm not so sensitive to these fashion brands, even though I'm Italian, yes, but I can tell you that I did try to buy some of these shoes at the launch date, and like in the first 10 minutes after the launch, they were sold out. No way you could buy them. There are people building bots to buy them. People go crazy for this because they cannot have them. And then they are resold on secondary market like 10 times more than the launch price. This is often combined with urgency. I'm sure you have all traveled with booking.com. Every time you go on booking.com and you try to book for an hotel, it's like you get only 8 hours. You got the best deal because you are a genius. And then Jonathan, and then Mike, and then Rosanna, all of them, they're looking at the same room at the same time. And you know what? We only have 3 rooms left. Now, this is the same whether you are booking a room for tomorrow, you're booking a room for in a month, or you're booking a room in a year. It's the same. This is like, sometimes you go like, is this Is this really true? Honestly, I don't know if this is true, but what I can tell you is that it works. Oh yes, guys, it works. If you combine scarcity with urgency, people go crazy. And that's why in marketing launches, most of the time, they always go like, yes, we are about to launch, there is a special price, but the special price is only for the first X people to book, and it's going to run out in about 10 hours. So be fast. Now, you want to persuade people, you really want them to move, you want to move them to do something they wouldn't have done, then good, very good, guys. Then don't give them a lot of buffer to take the decision. Just go and tell them that they have no buffer to take their decision, right? Just reduce that buffer as much as you can. And finally, trust. Takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. Now, this is probably one of the best principles ever. I love it. Trust. Be yourself. Be the best version of yourself. Now, Rick said that. I married that point. Be the best version of yourself. At the end of the day, even if you're wrong, it's fine. Just be yourself. Be honest to them. Just share your experience, and everything will be the best. It will go fine. All of this is done in a very structured way in the lean presentation design methodologies. We like to plan first. We don't even use PowerPoint. We start from a piece of paper. We reverse engineer communication. We start from the objective. Then we frame the context, situation, complication resolution. We do all of this through a canvas that we call the Lean Presentation Strategy Canvas. If you look at the top of it, we have the audience, we have your objective. What do they think today? What do they need to think tomorrow so that they will do something they are not ready to do? They wouldn't have done differently. Now, why should they resist? Your resistance is ordered in a consistent way so that you know that you start tackling the easiest one first. Then you can start populating your storyline, right? You start with the context, you go into the problem, solution, evidence, and call to action at the end. Call to action, one call to action. What do you want them to do after your presentation? That is your call to action. And finally, you can check the persuasion principles from Cialdini, and you can check them if you are using them. Now, this is the tool that we use to strategize our presentations in Lean Presentation Design. And I'm going to close in these final minutes just telling you what I haven't told you yet. I have been telling you that it is important, in my opinion, to present yourself. It is, but it is not, it is crucial you don't start talking about yourself. That's why I'm going to give you, to close with a story. And very quickly, I'm going to tell you why I'm talking to you about these things. I came from a corporate background, but I soon realized that whether I was selling processes to bank or chocolate to Walmart, the success of my career strongly depended on my ability, my skill, my capability to be an effective presenter. I needed to be fast. I needed to be effective when I deliver presentations. And that's why I left the company world. I started running a lot of research, and I started practicing. I did a lot of presentations for people, and I came up with methodologies. Why methodologies? Because I believe in my background, I'm an engineer. I like to have a model to follow, something that is transferable to people, something that is a guideline that I can follow. And that's why I strategize these models. I developed several canvases. Now, the most important one that I've been talking about it today is the Lean Presentation Strategy Canvas. It really helps you as a guideline to go through your presentation when you're trying to persuade an audience with your presentation. I am co-founder of a Lean Presentation Design agency, a leading agency in Italy, and this is my amazing team. We design presentations. We just design presentations. We teach the Lean Presentation Design methodologies in corporates. I teach at university. I coach startup at the startup incubator of my university, and that is where I developed all the experience that helped me to publish second methodology about how to pitch startups to investors. Now, I love PowerPoint. I'm completely in love with PowerPoint so much that I invent features for it. So I invented more than 30 buttons for it. I cheat. Yes, I have tricks when I work in PowerPoint, and I build a tool that's called MLC PowerPoint Add-in. I'm not going to talk about it today, but it's just a tool that helps us to be more productive, to manage our assets in PowerPoint straight away. So what do I do at the end of the day? I do Lean Presentation Design. This is my brand. This is my methodology. In a word, we do presentations for success of people. What's next? I'm going to leave you with some bonuses. Everything I discussed is not very well summarized by my slides because my slides are not very self-centered. So everything I talked about today is summarized in 2 guides. So I'm going to share with you a guide on how to hook people, 13 techniques used to hook people right from the beginning. Why? Because beginning is the most important part of your presentation, as we said. I'm going to share a guide that summarizes the speech I gave today, and finally the Lean Presentation Strategy Canvas. This is all available for you, and I'm ready to share all of this. I'll be in touch with Boris to do that. Let's keep in touch. The best way for me is LinkedIn. This is my favorite communication channel. I thank you very much for having me today. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I hope you found some inspiring thoughts into what I had to share with you. And I really thank you very much for your time and attention today, for dedicating such precious resources you have to listen to me today. Thank you very much.
Back to the studio, as we say here, right? So thank you so much for this presentation. We will make sure that all of the resources that you just showed are going to get to the people that participated in this session, but we'll figure that out after the conference is over, because obviously we cannot figure that out right now. Now, I have a question for you though. You talked a lot about business ideas, right? And pitching business ideas and having all of that, like the canvas and the structure and all of this stuff. You are very much involved also in the world of startup pitching, right? Because I believe that someone here is coming from the world of startups, or if they're not coming from the world of startups, they may be considering, what are the differences? Because we have 7 minutes or 8, I don't know anymore. I cannot do the maths anymore under pressure. So what are the differences when you pitch a business idea, and what are the differences between pitching a business idea and pitching a startup idea? Not that the startup is not a business, but what are the differences? You get my point.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. It's very, very, very interesting point. The idea is that we have seen how to build a storyline, a persuasive storyline to get right away to the objective, right? Now, when you pitch a startup, you have to nail this down. And so you have to get into some specific sections. When we pitch startup and we have 5 minutes, in 5 minutes, we have to convince our audience to tell us, yes, I want to talk to you. I want to fund your startup instead of another 1,000 of startups that have been pitching before or after you. Now, in terms of contents, we need to nail them down. And there are some important parts that cannot be missing. Let me go through it. When we pitch a startup, we often start with the problem solution mechanic, and this is because we are using the storytelling, tension and tension release mechanism to attract attention. Then we follow and we talk about market sizing, right? Market sizing, because if it is something that is relevant only to me and my co-founders, then this means that this is not going to be relevant to an investor who need to jump in the company, buy the equity, and then resell this equity for higher value to make some margins and profit and repay his own investors. So market sizing, does it have an important, a big enough market size to make a business out of it? Then very good. Market sizing. Then business model, does it generate any value? If investors are giving money to you, it's because probably they want money back at a certain point. So how do you generate value? If you check the pitches from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from all the most famous startups, they always talk about business model. Now, business model is not a business model canvas. Business model is the summary of your revenue streams. So how do you plan to generate value? How do you plan to make money out of it, right? And if you have made some money, then you can talk about the next section, which is traction. Traction is not for early stage startups. So if you are early stage or seed startup and you are about to start, then probably you don't have traction. Traction means you have some measures, some concrete measures that prove that you are successful, that prove that you are solving a relevant problem and that you are providing a relevant solution to a specific target audience. Now, traction can be sales, but can be measures of success like user growth. If you're talking about digital startup, for example, could be the churn rate, how many people they churn, how many leave your website, your app after they downloaded it, right? But this is also for gym, for example, right? If you open a gym and you get them to subscribe to your gym, but then they don't come, and then in a year they unsubscribe, then you always have to struggle to acquire new clients all the time. So what is the percentage of users that leave you? Traction. This is very important. Now, after traction, there is an important point. Who are your competitors? Now, the most dangerous answer you can give to investors is, I don't have competitors. You need to have competitors, because if you have competitors, this means you are trying to solve a relevant problem. If you don't have competitors, this means you're probably trying to solve something that is not relevant to anybody. Now, if you have competitors, you remember you have to position yourself in a way that makes you unique compared to your competitors. And what follows then after that is the team. Who is behind the startup idea? You can have a great idea, but if you have a bad team, you're going to fail. If you have a bad idea in the end of a good team, you will probably succeed. This is why in startup we often say to investors that they tend to invest on the team more than on the idea itself. We have the financial projections. So how much, when do you plan to go break even? And what is the ambition of the startup in the next 5 years? And then we close with a call to action. So if you can see, the storyline is the same. We've been discussing, we're just nailing it down. The call to action in a startup pitch is made by two sections. Is the fundraising request. So how much do you need? And how do you plan to allocate these funds? And what are the next steps? How do you plan to invest your money in the investment period that is coming after the investment, right? You get this money, how do you plan to invest them? What are the key milestones that you are going to deliver, that you are committing to deliver in the investment period, right? After the investment period. So how are you going to spend the money, basically? And we often end with a slide with the contents. And so we nailed down the entire startup pitch structure. There is a canvas on that too. So if you're interested to that, just drop a message in the chat. I'd be very happy to share this structure as well. And this is just a more detailed structure of the Lean presentation strategy canvas. Perfect. Thank you very much, Boris. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day, guys.